The reason we seek to listen to poetry, to stories, to music, to look at pieces of art, stare at a child, stare at nature. All these types of things are not in our mind. And the time we need it most is when life and our sense of meaning utterly collapses. And for most people, this doesn't happen often because they're so caught up in life, and then they experience a tragedy or they experience falling in love as well so deeply, and they're trying to figure out what is this feeling? Why am I feeling this way? And what does it mean? And so a song connects us with that feeling, lines of poetry connect us with that feeling. Otherwise, we're just carrying on through our day, working and then family and then bills and all the rest of it. And in the process, we start feeling empty. If there's one thing that's quite evident, is that it's quite a blanket statement, but humanity has lost its soul. There is no soul. There is no deep meaning to existence. There is no deep purpose to us if we think about what we do. And it's not unique to this age, by the way, but it is one of the melees of modern day society, is this idea that we're here to get more and do more and be more and more productive and more driven and more successful and more happy and more healthy. And this leaves us feeling empty because there is no deeper meaning. I mean, late at night that voice comes to you and say, but what's the point of all this? Like, what am I doing here? And for most of them, it only happens either when there's a tragedy or some big event that changes their lives. And they said, why did I go spend all that time worrying about things that I could, that were quite useless to me, that it didn't bother me? So it's in that time of great desperation of what is all of this. What does it all mean? Nothing makes sense. And I think that's the perfect time for you to realize, or for us to realize, that the meaning of life goes deeper than what we outwardly projecting out there. Even in the stuff that we're having problems with, our job and our rent and our salary and our careers and all these types of things. They just distract us, don't they? They distract us from searching for the deeper meaning of life. So let's start off with one. So this is from the Tao Te Ching. So this is chapter 48. They're very brief portions, but they require you to be still inside for a moment. In the pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. In the practice of the Tao, every day something is dropped. So let me say the first two lines again. In the pursuit of knowledge, in life, we want more and more and more. Every day something is added. Bigger house, more knowledge, new course, new this, new that. In the practice of the Tao, every day something is dropped. Less and less do you need to force things until you arrive at non-action. And I'll explain non-action. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. True mastery can be gained by letting things go their own way. It can't be gained by interfering. And that's it. So let's pause for a moment, reflect on this. In the pursuit of knowledge, so we use the word knowledge, we can change the word knowledge to in the pursuit of our greatest goals. We want to get more money, get a promotion, sign up for a new course because it will get us, a better job. As adding on, a new house. You need to fix the paint. You need to buy a new couch. Something needs to be added on. But in the practice of the Tao, every day something is dropped. So you're leaving something behind. So in the matter of knowledge, how can knowing less gain you more? How can knowing less gain you more? And knowing too much weigh you down? So this is important to differentiate between information, knowledge, and wisdom. Information, lots of information. We are a society flooded in information, but very little wisdom getting through. And wisdom is the exercise of experience. It's experiential. Wisdom is experiential. It's lived experience. It's something that you gain from someone who's been doing the same thing for a long time. That's wisdom. But of course, if somebody's not alert and awake while they're doing these things, that's not wisdom. Think about that for a second. So, less and less do you need to force things until finally you arrive at non-action. Now, non-action, also called Wu Wei in the Chinese. Wu Wei is the art of effortless action or non-action. Or Wu Wei could be said the art of doing, not doing. Now, you have to be patient because the English language traps us into a split where we can only see one thing and we can't see both things. And that's why the book that I wrote was all about that. You've got to be able to see both sides of the picture. There is always two sides of the coin. The problem is we say this like a cliche, two sides of the coin. People don't get what this means. So if we look at Wu Wei, which is the art of doing, not doing, is that by you not engaging in the activity with all your worries, expectations, disappointments, past experiences, you're now free to allow life to flow through you. So this is also called effortless elegance, or now commonly known by scientific people, the flow state. The flow state is a state of mind where there's no mind, or in Japanese called mushin, no mind. So does that mean that you're sitting on the couch watching Netflix? That's how people read this, and they're, oh, I'm not after this Chinese shit. I'm not sitting on Netflix. I got to get out there and get things done, right? Because I'm a doer, right? And I'm a successful person, and I'm not here to sit around do nothing. So what do? You spend 16 hours a day doing the same shit, not getting the results that you want, and then what do you feel? Despondent. You wake up the next morning, and how do you feel about what you need to do? How many of us are getting the results that we want? I guarantee you 99% of the people on the planet are not getting the results they want. Why? Because the mind is never satisfied. But the mind always wants more, and the mind always believes that you're not doing it right. Think about it from childhood. How many of the times are you certain, absolutely certain, that what you're doing is the correct way of doing it? Even yawning, even sneezing, even talking, even laughing, they're all judged by society and by you. So you will not do it properly. But if you not do and just be as you are without the preconceptions, then life happens through you, right? Because you don't have any expectations, and it happens majestically. I was looking at the flower today. One flower was fully open and the other one still budding. And I said, that flower is going to bud so beautifully in a few weeks. And it's not doing anything. It's just sitting there, supposedly. But what's happening inside of it for the flower to grow, as we know, photosynthesis and all the rest of these very complex processes happening inside the leaves and the roots and the branches. However, it's Wu Wei. Nature is Wu Wei. It's effortless elegance. There is no forcing, there is no fighting, there is no insistence on how things should be. And that's how we interpret good or bad. Like the thing that people come to me is the most commonly asked question. Rashad, is that good or bad? I said, but it's not the question to ask. The whole society is just about that. So, good or bad? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? You're not doing the right thing or the wrong thing. It is what it is. And people can't seem to fathom that. And it took me a lifetime to see the polar opposites as being equal. And I would suggest that you spend some time understanding this, because it will change your life. Not just your spiritual life, if you want to call it that, but how you engage with work. It is the most successful thing you can ever do. Because Steve Jobs, who have had his faults and whatever else that Steve Jobs did, he defined what intelligence was. And to him, intelligence was to be able to see the entirety of the problem. And if you look at any great mathematician, scientist, revolutionary person, what is it that they could do that others couldn't do? How did they solve the problem? What did they have? How were they looking at the problem? Everybody else was looking at the same problem, but they saw something that others didn't. What did they see that others didn't? What kind of mind do you need to bring to that? And so the definition of intelligence is seeing the thing that other people missed. In other words, it's a simple training. This is what they teach in management schools and motivational schools and things like that. And I taught that in the intuition class as well. Follow your vision, follow your hearing, your senses. Lao Tzu, again, he said that the five senses blind us from reality. You've got to focus on the opposite. You see, we focus on the object, right? And this is explained in detail in my book, Mu. So we so focus on the object that we don't see the surroundings. So what we have to do is we have to gain a different vision. Yeah, so foveal is focusing on one point, and peripheral is seeing everything in the background. So the way to train your mind, it's a training because we're so polarized, and this is the unlearning that we're talking about. You see, it's not about becoming an idiot. This is not what the sages and the saints were saying. It's not saying become an idiot. You should learn. There's no doubt about it. But what you're doing is that you're looking from a polarized point of view. If you read everything else everybody else is reading, you're going to only know what everybody else is knowing. How can you come up with anything revolutionary, especially in your job, in your business? You're just applying the same tricks everybody else does. And nobody else is getting very far, and some people have an edge. But that edge that got them there was not the money or the position or the connections, which were very important. Let's not discard that. But of them looking beyond the problem. And that's why people that go on psychedelic experiences, they get these profound insights, right? They say, "Oh, I didn't see it like that. It was so simple. It was staring me in the face. The solution to the problem." So that's what happens when you become no mind and you become Wu Wei and Wu Xin and all these terms that they're talking about, is you become one with everything, and then there's no separation between me and the thing that I want, or the problem and me. Is that everything flows and the answer, you arrive at the answer. And so this is the last line of this particular chapter. True mastery can be gained by letting things go their own way. It can't be gained by interfering. And there's practical applications to this in our lives as well. And that's what people need to understand, is that there is a way of living in the world, in corporate success and in family life, which is not disconnected. The Tao Te Ching, if you look at Taoism, it integrated so much about well-being, about martial arts, about painting, about artistry, about work. You must remember, we had Chuang-Tzu that came out of that. So it's not to say that we this is a spiritual path, although you approach it through a broader understanding, and then you use that to enrich your life. So in other words, your work is nourished by your soul rather than a life devoid of your soul. And if the heart's not brought into what you're doing, then you're an empty person, and eventually, even if you get this thing that you say you want, there'll be no nourishment inside of you, because there's this great emptiness. So, and I see there's an equal amount of men and women. No, the women are majority here. Well, it's pretty close by, but there's one thing about the Tao and about all spiritual teachings. They take so much from feminine qualities. And in fact, if you are going to read and have a copy of the Tao Te Ching, then you should get Stephen Mitchell's translation. Stephen Mitchell uses both male and female in his dialogue, because the Tao is genderless, right? We don't want to get into that horrible debate, but yeah, so it's devoid of that. Yet the feminine essence of observing the bigger picture of compassion, kindness, and inclusiveness, and the womb concept. The Tao is the womb in the way. We are all being nourished by this womb, or this Tao, this greater mother, you could call it. And I think that's very good to know. I mean, it is in the, my daughters were saying, I said, you can't go, they're teenagers now. I said, when you grow up, they said, when we grow up, we can't cuddle with mom in the bed. And I said, you're never too old to cuddle with mom in your bed. I can be 40 or 50 years old. If my mom's there, I'll go cuddle with my mom in bed. I miss her so much. But that's the thing, it's always available to you, that warmth and that knowingness of that motherly warmth. And like Ronald said, and that comes across in a warm hug. And that's the spirit of a woman in her essence. Let's move on. So this is chapter 51. Every being in the universe is an expression of the Tao. It springs into existence, unconscious, perfect, free, takes on a physical body, lets circumstances complete it. That is why every being spontaneously honors the Tao. The Tao gives birth to all beings, nourishes them, maintains them, cares for them, comforts them, protects them, takes them back to itself, creating without possessing, acting without expecting, guiding without interfering. This is why love of the Tao is in the very nature of things. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful piece which really falls in line with what I just mentioned beforehand about this, the motherly type of instinct, which is the Tao. So you can use the word Tao for whatever you like. You can replace that with God, the universe, whatever you like. Whatever you like. We're not really going to get into that. So there is something greater than us out there that nourishes and sustains all of life. Well, that's what I choose to believe. Of course, we live in a materialistic life right now. Even a lot of religions don't even realize how materialistic they are, which makes them put God and religion into that particular box instead of understanding much more deeper knowing of existence, which is the Tao in a way. It's much more comprehensive in that way. So every being in the universe is an expression of the Tao. So what does that mean? Everything that you see is an expression of the Tao. Now, that's the first line. And the last two lines says, this is why love of the Tao is in the very nature of things. What does this mean? This is why love of the Tao is in the very nature of things. In the very nature of things. Do you see the love of God in the very nature of things? Well, it depends what kind of eyes you're looking at things with, doesn't it? There was this the teacher of Rumi, Shams Tabriz. He said, if you look around and all is good, all is from God, then you're looking with the right eyes. And if you look around and all looks horrible, then you need to check what you're looking at. I'm paraphrasing here. He said it much more eloquently than me. And he said it in Persian, in the Farsi. So when you look around and everything reflects this, every being in the universe is the expression of the Tao, and that's why love of the Tao is in the very nature of things. So deep down in you, in me, in the guy you don't like, and in the neighbor that did this to you, and your job and your boss that did that, is in the very nature of things. So if you look deeply into things, you see, looking deeply means that you have to transcend your mind, because your mind is polarized. It's just seeing that one thing, that thing you hate about them, right? The thing that you dislike, and you can't look past that. But if you just put it on the back burner for a second and look beyond there at their essential nature, they came from children, and that you also came from a child, and you were also once pure, and they were also once pure. And you connect this to the nature of everything, then there can be no conflict in that way. Of course, if it was injustice done to you, go slap them. I'm not I'm not saying, well, ideally don't go slap them, but because we live in a very non-violent culture, it's amazing that everybody's promoting, oh, that's too violent to say, yet our war machines are murdering people in large amounts, and we still haven't addressed the issue of global poverty, which is quite shocking. But that's not the issue to talk about here. However, again, in that statement, we've got to look carefully in there and find in us, because the eye that I'm looking at this with is not the eyes of the Tao and the love in that. So I've got to see the wisdom in the Tao. And it takes courage, and it takes looking deep, because it's very easy to just say, oh, well, that applies only for that particular issue and doesn't apply for all the rest of it. No, it applies to everything, And the Sufis say that everywhere you turn, there is the face of God. So they say that the Sufi or the lover, because we all say, oh, we love, we're lovers. We love everyone, kindness and compassion for everybody. That's the thing on the internet, right? The most popular post by all these influencers that you see. Kindness first, kindness first. We all love and we all love. But what kind of love is this? Because if you say you love, then how can you be against anyone or anything? You can't. You can't, because that's just polarized, right? You're saying you love, but you don't love. You say, we love the dog and the cat saving the grandma from the river, but we can't love that guy or that woman or that person or my boss or my ex, right? So it's not love. Let's be honest. Don't call it love. Call it what it is, and be honest with yourself that you're not. This is not love. But if we are to look deeply, and not easy, we are all hypocrites. I'm the number one biggest hypocrite in that particular aspect. But we've got to be honest with ourselves, and I think this authenticity is very lacking. We talk a lot about authenticity, but it's not really authenticity. But again, let's move on a little bit more about what we're talking about here. So the Tao gives birth to all beings, nourishes them, maintains them, cares for them, comforts them, protects them, takes them back to itself. Creating without possessing, acting without expecting, guiding without interfering. Just those 3 lines are so precious. Creating without possessing. Right? So it's an expression. You create something and you let it be, you let it flourish in the world. You don't hold on tight for it and get your copyright trademark for the rest of your life and suffocate yourself to death because somebody used your whatever it was and you didn't get your 5 cents royalty from it, right? That's in the creation aspect, but it's everything that we do. It's my work, is what I did, and look what I did for you, and it's not really creation. That's which goes in line with the second statement, acting without expecting. We're expecting greatly. And the Tao does not expect. It creates, but it doesn't say, well, I did that for you. I expect this from you. And that's what Hafiz said. He said, the poem about the moon and about the sun. One of you can Google it if you like. I don't want to quote it off incorrectly. So guiding without interfering. This is the other thing. And this applies a lot to work and to leaders and to parents, right? Without interfering in the process, because interfering also means trying to save people from pain, because guidance and growth happens in pain. And if you say that you're serious about helping someone grow, then you have to be able to stand aside and watch them in pain. It's impossible for the modern day man to get. And we do that with the children as well. We can't have them have an inch of pain because we can't see them suffer. But this is precisely what growth is. This is the whole process of childbirth. The whole first 2 years of life is this excruciating growth phase. You see it in the first 3 months of a child. There's nothing peaceful going on in there apart from when they're sleeping. The rest of it is just churning and chucking up and all sorts of screaming and howling. This is the growth, And if you instigate in that, then you want to make them numb. Like my wise friend told me, he said, He said, a noisy child means a healthy child. He said, be careful of the quiet ones. So the noise and the craziness is part of that allowing without interfering and guiding them to become the best expression of themselves. And sometimes that means, and the Eastern wisdom knows this very well. In the West, we call this being unkind. I know I did a post about kindness, and some people, especially in the West, couldn't get it. But people from traditional upbringing realize that part of guidance and part of kindness is saying no. No, you can't do that. No, you shouldn't do that. No, I'm not going to let you. That's also kindness. Because we have this thing that if you say no, it's unkind. Actually, saying no can be very kind as well. And that's where we also have a very limited understanding of that. So I'll take a pause here. Yeah, that's spot on, Maria. It's very, very true. Is that we impose our will on life's will, and then we suffer in the process. Because we definitely are very excited about going to see a child being born, but to see a person dying is something that just not something we do. When we're in the prime of our lives, we're super excited, but then when we're sick, it's intolerable, right? And I understand why it can be, but this is all this inclusiveness. And if you look at nature, death is one of the most beautiful and merciful things of life is death, right? But we can't. In the West, they've made it like this taboo topic. I mean, for me, it was so strange. You can't talk about death. My most profound moments was encountering death and encountering dead people, and seeing that type of thing. It's not morbid at all. It's actually very beautiful, extremely beautiful. And I think a lot of children have an obsession with seeing animals die and things like that. And we say, oh, that's terrible, don't do that. But there's wisdom in that, I think, as well. And so, yeah, seeing the totality in things is very important as well. A little bit more of this, of chapter, I don't know if anybody's following, but 52, if anybody wants to go, this is from the Stephen Mitchell translation, which is see, Stephen Mitchell, the beauty about Stephen Mitchell and the bad thing about a lot of these texts that have been translated by academics. Yes, Maria, your crowd, your ex-crowd. And they bring in this dryness to these magnificent spiritual texts. That's where Stephen Mitchell is different. Because to get this from the original Chinese and then translate it and then to capture its essence in a foreign language is so difficult. I mean, I think it's the most difficult thing in the world to do. And he does this so beautifully because, if you use the direct translation into the Chinese with the academic words, it's not going to work. And so that's what I love about Stephen Mitchell. So this is, I'll read the second, it's just a couple of lines. It says, if you close your mind in judgments and traffic with desires, your heart will be troubled. If you keep your mind from judging and aren't led by your senses, your heart will find peace. Let me say that again. If you close your mind in judgments, in other words, be closed-minded and just judge, and traffic with desires, in other words, I want this and I want that, your heart will be troubled, of course, because it's just, he's like that, she's like that, why can't I have this, why can't I have that? And remember, the reason you judge is because you want something. That's the only reason you judge, is because you didn't get what you want, right? I can't be like that. Why do they have to be like that? Because you didn't get what you want. Even in a relationship, why are they like that? Because you didn't get to have love. They were in your way, right? So it's judgment. That's because we desire that. So the judgment and desire are both linked together. Then your heart will be troubled. But if you keep your mind from judging and aren't led by the senses, in other words, just by desires, your heart will find peace. Seeing into darkness is clarity. Knowing how to yield is strength. Use your own light and return to the source of light. This is called practicing eternity. Seeing into darkness is clarity. Knowing how to yield is strength. This is the beautiful part that Western thinkers or Western orientated people can't get. They can't see the paradoxes. They can't see the contradictions. You're either like this or you're like that. Is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? Am I right or am I wrong? Is she nice or is she not nice? Should I like her or should I hate her? Is it good for me or is it bad for me? But that's where people miss the point so much. Even when it comes to food, people will say, "Oh, yeah, avocado, that's bad for me because I got this." Whatever, give an example. But in the Chinese, just again with the Taoist medicine as well, some foods are great for you and other foods are terrible for you. So someone can have avocado and the other person should definitely not have avocado. But that's understanding the correlations and the interconnectedness of everything. And we don't see things. A lot of us don't do, and that's what I'm inviting you to do: is to train your mind and to look deep within you. This is your intuition, your ability to know, and you could say your third eye, right? That part which the mystics talk about between your eyebrows, the pineal gland, which connects to your higher senses. But let's not get too mystical. However, you can use your mind and say, but why am I not seeing the other side? Simply look at a canvas, look at a painting, and notice, just stare at it. In my book, I goes in a lot of detail about this. Look at the painting, but do not focus on the painting. Focus on the canvas that the painting is painted on. And you'll see the whole thing. Because if there was no canvas, there'd be no painting. We miss that. There's the interconnectedness. So where everybody's staring at the painting, how many of us look at the canvas and go, wow, that white paper is magnificent? Yet, true masters would say, I need this paper. I know a great writer was very particular about the paper, and he said, I need this paper from Switzerland. That's the only paper I will allow my book to be printed on. I know I had to get it for him, some weird number. It was, and I finally got it. It was this eggshell, but and the texture was so. And then we printed it. I was like, wow. So you see, without the right paper, the book wouldn't have been the same. But we're not interested in that, are we? We're just interested in the text. We're just interested in information. Even if you look at when you receive information, your state of being right now, if you've got bills to pay and you're worried about, your toothache or, your child this and child that, how much of this is actually getting through? But we don't realize that we're just surfing for information. What can I catch? Okay, I'll get that line. Great, thanks very much. I'm going to go and sleep. There's nothing that gets through in modern day people. There's a general malaise of people on the internet. They're just surfing. And the internet's not helping. Social media is not helping with the 29-second clips. You're just browsing. Nothing's getting through. And you can get just one line. And if you're fully present and fully aware and fully engaged in the moment, one line will make your heart melt, will make your eyes ball, your heart rapture, just from you being so intensely present in that moment. So it's not criticism. It's saying, but you deserve so much more. You deserve this. You were created like this magnificently. It's not fair to rob yourself of this by consuming information, by become a junkie, an information junkie and a wisdom-seeking junkie. Another meme and another video and another this. How many lines are you going to read? You can see why I like reading this stuff, because it makes no sense. None whatsoever. I mean, put this on your thing. In the beginning, there was Tao. You can't put that in your file of facts and refer to it on page 24. But this is the type of knowledge that transforms your life, because it makes no sense. So yeah, it's what I feel for myself and what I feel for my children is what I hope for you as fellow human beings, because I see everybody as my brothers and my sisters. We are all of the same womb, right? And that's the Tao, the great Tao. So I would ask you and humbly suggest that you take time to, and this is what loving yourself essentially is, just sitting quietly, saying, what am I doing here? Enough information, enough stimulation. Just be to witness. Just be the witness. Because be is a cliche. What is this be thing? It's a cliche. What does that mean? Just be. So you're sitting there and you got your tablet and your device and Netflix, and you're sitting there, okay, right, B time is done, back to Netflix, right? But you could be witnessing yourself while you're watching Netflix. You can be witnessing yourself while you're on TikTok, right? Which is more difficult, of course. You can witness yourself deeper in the forest or walking in the park somewhere, but this deep awareness of yourself, of your thoughts, of your feelings, of the same stuff that's going on through you, making you miserable, making you sad. You see, once you notice that, then you don't need to go online to get advice on how to overcome your phobia of terrible toes, right? Then you go on searching, you see this is ridiculous stuff that people search online for, what they need solutions for, and you think, it's not really a problem, but you sit there and you haven't even thought about it, but is it really something I want to dedicate the next 16 hours of my day to resolve? You know, these things resolve on their own, and really, your toe is not that significant. I mean, obviously, if you've got bad toe problems, excuse my terrible sense of humor, but yeah, you deserve better. You deserve peace. You deserve tranquility, but this cannot be arrived at in a five-star massage, right? Because people are like, yeah, that's great. I'll make sure when I go to Bali one day and I'm on my massage bed and, the waves are crashing, then I'll remember what he's saying. No. It's right here if you can, just for a moment. I'll be happy to do it with you for 1 minute if that's all you've got. That's all we've got these days, isn't it? Just 1 minute. Actually, 29 seconds is all we've got. I did a 1 minute video clip. They insisted it needed to be 59 seconds. And I said, how the hell can I condense all this that I got to say in 59 seconds? And this other friend of mine who's an Instagram influencer, he says, it's too long, my friend. People won't be able to listen for 59 seconds. I said, what are you talking about? He said, 29 seconds, that's all they got. You got to be given the punchline and the message in 29 seconds. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But that's what we're facing is an attention deficit. And of course, if you think people have ADHD now, which is a disease that they came up with, then you're going to have, wow, on a compounded scale coming into the future. So it's simple. The practice of awareness, this thing called being and meditation and all these fancy terms, oh wow, I'm not a great mystic and I'm not a Zen master and I'm not a Taoist practitioner and I don't know this technique and I don't know that technique. It's nothing to it. It's just a matter of witnessing, being present. Just listen to the chatter in your head and try it for 1 second. Ask yourself a simple question and say, I wonder what I'll think of next. Ask yourself that for just 1 second and say, I wonder what I'll think of next. It's the most powerful question in humankind. Nobody asked this question. Why? Because we believe we are our thoughts. But if you're to ask, I wonder what I will think of next, it means there's a separation between the thinking and the I that's asking the question. Isn't that right? Did you think about that for a second? Right? I wonder what I will think of next. So the thinker is not me. Then if I'm not the thinker, then who am I? And these are very interesting questions to ask. Google won't give you an answer to this, you see. So for that moment, when you realize that you're not your thoughts, and it is this thing, your thoughts are running autonomously. You'll find that your thoughts run on their own. And you can observe them. And you'll be like, oh, that's interesting. You become this scientist, this explorer, and it's fascinating. And the peace you get from observing is better than any massage you've ever had. Well, maybe you've had a massage that I haven't had before, but probably the massages that I've had have not been that great. But it is so comforting just to witness and say, oh, there's that thought again. Oh, yes, I need to fix my toe. Let me jump on Google. And you say, no, hold on a second. Let's just stay here for a bit. Oh, my wife this and my dog this. And just watch. And I did this. And it was the greatest thing I've ever done. I mean, yeah. And how much does it cost? Nothing. And how much is these other medications cost? A fortune. Anti-anxiety medications and sleeping tablets and all the rest of it. But just observing your thoughts is just so powerful, and it's not some great yoga practice. So observe your thoughts, and again, a very simple thing. I like to be very practical, right? Because I went through all the hard work, and I realized, and I said, why don't they just tell us the simple thing? Why do they need to complicate matters so much? So here's another simple thing. The gateway to witnessing is your ears. So, in order to become the witness, tune in to any of the sounds. It can be anywhere, in the noisy marketplace. It doesn't need to be on your yoga mat on the top of the Himalayas. Just listen to the sounds. Witness the sounds. You could even ask, I wonder what I'm listening to now. And notice as you witness, what stillness arises in you. Just notice that. Where is the stillness coming from? I wonder where these sounds are coming from. I wonder what my ears are hearing. And then from your ears, you get into your thoughts. Because just like thoughts, where do they play out? As sounds in your head, right? Aren't they? Where's the thinking happening? How do you listen to your thoughts, right? It's like, I can't believe what I'm thinking. Well, how do you know what you're thinking? Because you're hearing it, right? So you're hearing outside, and now you're hearing your thoughts. Think about that. What ears are listening to thoughts? Yet you can hear them. So then you say, I wonder what I'm thinking of, or I wonder what I'll think of next. And now you become the observer of your thoughts. And it's simple as that, nothing else. And when you lose your track of your train of thought or your focus, simply connect back to your breath. Take a deep breath in, deep breath out, and return back. It's always the now. The now is the gateway. And you find becoming this witness and this awareness is connecting to the great Tao, because that's what you're doing. You're just observing. Because that's what the great Tao does. It's just an incredible observer. And then everything is getting done by you watching everything getting done, which is incredible. So I think I'll leave it there. Wow, okay, time flew. I hope you benefited from that. Thank you, Hayat. Thank you, Asanda. Thank you for those that stayed along. I see quite a few people did stick around, which is wonderful. Appreciate it. Yeah, there'll be a recording. There's a lot of thank you, Joanna, Sergio, Andrea, Omaima. Thank you for this nice small little group of people that have joined us. And so try that, the practice. I will do this again next week, Sunday. I'll try to keep this regular going as well. If you want to comment or say anything, please feel free. Thank you for finding the time. Not for me. I really would love for you to benefit from it. I'm not selling anything. It just helps to echo what I struggled with so much, and how easy it was to return back to the Tao, if you want to call it that. But really, it's not some kind of great mysterious, Chinese method or anything like that. Yes, Ronald. Yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, Eckhart Tolle is a great example of that as well. But I love the way he starts off his book about the man sitting on the bench, the beggar sitting on a box, and he's been sitting there begging, and he's never thought about opening the box. I think it's a beautiful analogy to, we go outside and beg for the world to give us this and give us that, because we're so incomplete. And right beneath his feet in that box was the treasure that he sought everywhere, in everything, in every person. Yet the greatest treasure was right within him, and yeah, it's not easy, so don't give yourself a hard time if you can't find that. But it is this practice, or this exercise, or this suggestion is something we return back to. And when we get caught up into life's daily twists and turns, we're allowed to, because we're not sitting at the top of the mountain, doing everything and, smelling lemongrass. I like the smell of lemongrass. So give ourselves a break and say, yeah, well, having a shit day today, it's okay. And tomorrow I'll make some time. It's just to return back to the practice. Practice meaning just to become aware as much as you can. So it's a daily task, moment by moment, and kindness and compassion towards yourself, because you're not perfect, and neither am I, and neither is anyone. Especially those guys who claim to be, I'm all this and I'm all. Maybe they are. Again, I'm not judging them, but really, I have bad days, I have good days, but I know I have this awareness that I can return back to, and that's why I have this connection to the stories. That's why I'm bringing these stories to you, because they make me feel awesome. They make me remind myself, and like Maria said, just made her feel at peace when she had a loss in her family. And I think we just get reminded over and over again. I think that's the most important thing that I do every day, is just reminding, and I get to remind myself in the process. So what a delightful thing that I get to do.